Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Shamimi from Akademi Pengajian Bahasa UiTM Cawangan, Kelantan. My co-authors are Harunisa and Khadijah, also from the same faculty. And I will present to you the findings of our study on analysis of online criticizing strategies in social media from an Islamic perspective. Our study focuses on communication that occurs via social media because it has now become very complicated. I mean, the communication has now become very complicated, and people have used social media not only to gain information but also to communicate with others. And therefore, they can express their views, they can share their stories, and they can express their opinions via social media. Because social media has become as frequent as face-to-face communication nowadays, there are many negative repercussions because of online communication. And one of the repercussions that we can observe is negative communication, which can attack the pride of other people. And one instance of this type of negative communication is criticism, which can threaten a criticized party's positive face. Therefore, we have two objectives for this study. The first one is to investigate the strategies used by Malaysian netizens to criticize others on social media. And the second one is to examine to what extent these strategies align with Islamic principles of communication. And for the research methodology, we collected 360 Facebook comments using the purposive sampling method. These comments were posted in response to the news about Malaysian general election on the Facebook page of a local Malaysian English newspaper. 360 comments written to 12 news articles were collected into our study, and all these comments were written in Malay, in English language, and also in a code mix of Malay and English. So for research objective 1, we analyzed the data based on Nguyen's framework of criticizing strategies developed in 2013. And for research objective 2, we analyzed the data based on the taxonomy of Islamic principles based on a study by Jafar and Muhammad Sham, 2022. This is a framework of criticizing strategies developed by Nguyen. There are two major types of strategies. The first one is direct criticism, and the second one is indirect criticism. For direct criticism, there are 3 sub-strategies, whereas there are for indirect criticism, there are 3 sub-strategies. For the second taxonomy, Islamic principles of communication, there are 6 principles: Qawlan Sadida, Qawlan Ma'rufa, Qawlan Baligha, Qawlan Maisura, Qawlan Layyina, and Qawlan Karima. And for research objective 1, which is to identify the strategies used in online criticism, we have found that there were more indirect criticizing strategies used by netizens compared to direct criticizing strategies. 67% of the strategies were indirect, whereas only 33% were direct strategies. And this is the distribution of all strategies, both direct and indirect, in the online criticism. Okay. The most frequent strategy was IC2, followed by IC1, and then DC2 and DC1. So I will discuss the findings for IC2, IC1, and DC2 and DC1. Okay, for IC2, the strategy used was hint. So these are the samples of strategies, the hint strategies in comments containing criticism. For hints, people did not directly utter the names, the words. Instead, they use symbols or they use objects to refer to the criticized person. Okay, whereas IC1 was request for change. Here, people would give advice, would make a request for improvement in order to criticize another party. And for most frequent direct criticizing strategies, there were two: explicit disapproval and explicit statement of a problem. Okay, for explicit disapproval, they would express their disagreement, they would express their disapproval directly to the online users. Whereas for explicit statement of a problem, they will also clearly or directly mention the problems, the consequences that will happen as a result for an action, okay, done by a politician. Okay, for research objective 2, we analyze the data based on the 6 principles of communication, and our analysis shows that the messages contain positive and negative words. Okay, therefore, we divided the messages into positive and negative categories. Okay, for positive categories, for the positive category, the messages contain words that are nice to hear, that are good to say to another party. Hence, these messages align with the 6 principles of communication. Okay, for example, here the words mentioned are saham akhirat, and then uhwah, and then Allah, like advising people or reminding people about the consequences that they will face in the future as a result of their action. Whereas negative messages contain words that are not nice to hear, not nice to be said to others. For example, the politicians or other people are likened to penyamun, are likened to buaya, or they use swearing words, okay, to criticize the other party. Okay, based on our study, we found that netizens would rather criticize others using indirect strategies compared to direct strategies. One of the reasons could be because criticizing is an aversive communication that can threaten a person's positive face or a person's pride. And it is also regarded as social incivility because it can criticize or it can bring down a person's self-concept, character, capability, and self-perception. Hence, when criticism is done online via social media, it becomes visible to a large number of audience. Therefore, netizens become very conscious of what they write online, of what they post online. And even though indirect strategies were applied in their online criticism, we found that these messages contained positive and negative words. Islamic emphasizes the importance of ethical communication, meaning that we need to incorporate adab in our communication. And the most prominent model in Muslim society is Prophet Muhammad, who demonstrated the best example of effective communication. Therefore, when we communicate online, we also need to take into consideration the psychological and emotional state of the person that we send the messages to. Okay, and we must also express affection to them. Hence, Muslims should be reminded that every good action is a form of ibadah. Therefore, using social media can also be a part of our ibadah if we instill faith, knowledge, and taqwa in our messages. And we can say that some of the comments in our data align with the 6 principles of communication suggested by former researchers. Okay, to conclude, using social media is not an offense at all in Islam, but as Muslims, we must be wise and conscious of the language choice to communicate our messages to others, even if we intend to criticize or intend to advise others using social media. And our study is not without limitations. Therefore, we suggest that future studies collect a bigger amount of data to make better generalization of the findings of criticizing strategies. Secondly, we also suggest that future studies to make a comparison of criticizing strategies that can be drawn from Muslim communities in different countries, so that we can conduct a socio-linguistic analysis of criticizing strategies. And through our study, we hope to deliver the message that as Muslims, we must be careful in communicating online, and we must abide by the principles of Islamic communication. Okay, thank you.